distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen.
What's up, family? My name is Brother Ray. We'd like to welcome everyone to the BK History Club. We meet in honor of William Mackey Jr., Amos Wilson, El-Haj Malik El-Shabazz, Brother Hassan, Louis Ray Rivera, the late great attorney Alton Maddox, Gil Noble, Minister Khaled, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Ivan Van Sertima, and all the historians who gave up fame and fortune. Miss Leola Maddox, Runoko Rashidi, and then in honor of Miss Leola Maddox, who drove an old car, moderate, nice car, from Teaneck to the United African Movement, so she could bring people together for the live lectures. We don't never want to forget Miss Leola. And she ate her dinner at the UAM because she believed in bringing people together for live, to talk, to conversate, good, bad, or indifference. So we never want to forget Miss Leola Maddox. And for the people that came out in the live audience, give yourself a great big hand for coming out and supporting the BK Mackey's History Club. Now we're going to send the camera over to the Amos collection. These books is to help Amos Wilson, Sababu, and African World Info Systems continue the work of Amos Wilson. And from what I understand, Sababu is coming up with another blockbuster. We have Blueprint for Black Power. We also have The Psychology of Self-Hatred and Self-Defeat toward the Reclamation of the African Mind. Issues of Manhood in Black and White. Awakening the Natural Genius of Black Children. The Falsification of African Consciousness. African-centered consciousness versus the New World Order. And in honor of Louis Ray Rivera, Jazz in Jail. And we have Distorted Truths, the Bastardization of African Cosmology. But I always want to tribute my good friend, Louis Ray Rivera, who came down to the Mackey's group when Professor Mackey passed away. And he would come down here and he would speak for hours. And he lived right down the block, and we would walk him home and he would speak for another hour and a half, and he only lived on Jefferson Avenue, which is only a couple of blocks. But Louis Ray left us too soon. So his classic, Jazz in Jail, I never want to forget Louis Ray. So we have these books, Sababu and Amos. Now I have a whole bunch of other publications for the listening audience to do your research. We're going to start off. We have a lot of books in honor of Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark. We have Black Man of the Nile and his family. And Dr. Ben tells on how they built the pyramids, those great dynasties, the great builders of the world, the pyramids, those great civilizations, the language, our history and language, not the language they forced on us, the language that we use. And it dates back, and it wasn't too many computers at that time. And Dr. Ben wouldn't be on the call of duty. And when you go into this book, it tells you everything in those pyramids was built perfect. It was not a shabby job, not a mistake made. 5,000 years later, we're looking at somebody else to build for us, to protect us. It didn't happen. We want to thank Dr. Ben, because if you go in that book, you'll find out that a whole lot of people was building in honor of Sister Tyreen Wright, Booker T, and the making of a Pan-Africanist. Everybody thinks old Booker T was some kind of something else, but Booker T. Washington was a bad dude. So this book right here, Sister Tyreen talks about. We have that. Also, we have manufacturing of a president, the CIA insertion of Barack Hussein Obama, Wayne Mansfield. Everybody think Obama was on the money, but he's, according to Wayne Mansfield, big CIA. This book is excellent. Also, I just picked up these few books. Everybody's talking about Epstein. Well, this Sister Whitney Webb, Blackmail, Volume 1 and Volume 2. This Sister Whitney Webb is all on YouTube, but she had the 2 books, and when they start talking about these files and all this stuff, I think you better get these 2 books. I haven't got into them yet, but she said, if you listen to her on YouTube, this young lady is on the money. In honor of our good friend, Cynthia McKinney, when China sneezes from the corona lockdown to the global political economic crisis. And she has another book, when Donald Trump runs his mouth about how to, and he calls these first world countries S-hole countries, and everybody runs with it. Well, Cynthia McKinney went beyond the call of duty. She edited a book, How the U.S. Creates S-hole countries. So when Trump or anybody else make these statements, you got to see who's behind the making of the S-hole country. So we want to thank Cynthia McKinney on her 1-2 blockbuster. And in my personal opinion, the only person that cared about the people of Georgia. Those folks they got up in there now, don't give 2 red cents about it. If you ever want to get the history of gangs, Herbert Asbury, the gangs of New York. You think the Bloods, the Crips, the Nestars, the Savage Skulls got nothing on the gangs, the Irish gangs, the Italian gangs that took control of the 5 Points, which is present-day City Hall. If you want to read about gang activity from Tammany Hall, you go into the gangs in New York, and it'll tell you the history of the gangs and what happened to us, even the draft riots. So we want to thank Herbert Asbury, the gangs in New York. At one time, they had over 400 to 500 roving gangs around the 5 Points, 14th Street. And they running around with this nonsense that they talking now about gangs. No. African American slavery and African American slavery in Latin America and in the Caribbean. So when you get to talking about reparations, the people that's in America talking about reparations and have a statement about reparations, you got to remember, reparations is global. Africans was dropped all over the world. So if you wasn't fighting for reparations in your own country where the European dropped you off in, whether it was Brazil, Jamaica, Guyana, Mexico, Panama, if you wasn't trying to get reparations there, don't come over to America and start running your mouth about what the African American is due. When slavery is a global, it's global. So this book talks about it. Queen Nzinga, African Queen Warrior. And there's a lot of programs about what's happening to our sisters. But if you read about Queen Nzinga, the brothers were so bad. When she went and negotiated with the Portuguese, they would not give her a chair to sit down. The brothers made their own seat so she could sit down and negotiate with them cave dwellers. And if you read this book, if the women of America read this book and see how bad this sister is, or follow the readings of, may she rest in peace, Sister Asada, and those great warrior women during the 60s that didn't take no nonsense. These cats wouldn't be able to run the game on you. They wouldn't be able to talk that nonsense because you were following Queen Nzinga. And I want to thank the African Echo Study Group with Trust Graham. American or African or American, black identity and political activism in New York City, 1784 to 1861. Read the history of our plight in the early 1800s, in the 1700s. It was not a pretty story. So we want to thank the African Echoes family on the warrior spirit that went down. And maybe if you got into this book, you wouldn't be so divided. Because the European has a way of dividing people. They divide it, like Angus used to say, they take a, you ever heard of the Skinner? They put from rats in a box and put one piece of cheese in there, and then the rats started fighting over it. Well, they know how to do the same thing. They do it in Africa, they do it here, and keep us fighting. So the reparations phenomenon, they must don't have this book. We have the pictures without sanctuary, the hangings, the dogs, the whippings, what happened on the cotton plantations, the postcards, the word picnic, picnic. They don't have this book. So the next time you have some reparations committee where you have these people sitting up there, and then you have people making statements about why people shouldn't get reparations, you show this book and show what happened. And then you get the atrocities that happened, where they cut the hands off Cecil Rhodes for the rubber. Or they took a horse and put it on one side of the woman and tied the other horse to the other side of the woman and told the horse to run and rip the body apart. So you got to learn how to keep your mouth shut when you start running your mouth about these things, when the pictures is right here. But they don't ask that when they give other people money. They don't say, we want a school, we want better education. The books are here. The Destruction of Black Civilization, Chancellor Williams. And if you want to know the mistakes we made as a people in the land of the black, the mistakes we made for the Arabs to come in, for the Arab slave trade. And then their brothers, the European, came in for the European slave trade. The great warriors, the armies that took control, that fought gallantly. We did not have it together, according to Chancellor. And Trust Graham with that powerful study group. He goes into this book and it tells you the mistakes of Timbuktu and all these great dynasties. Chancellor Williams. Everywhere you go, you see people smoking weed. They smoking it so much. I was walking down the street and two white girls said, yeah, I'm just smoking that weed and hanging out with my friends. And this is in Bed-Stuy. It ain't the black community no more. Well, you can thank George Soros. Lyndon LaRouche did a good job on bringing up this legalized marijuana. And the Democratic Party allowed it. They got more weed shops than liquor stores. Everybody is selling it. And you can't do nothing about it. Not only do they get into weed, they get into the British, getting the Chinese strung out. They get into the British and the European, getting the black man strung out during the 60s. Dope, crack. Now they got this new stuff. So the book Dope Incorporated. Ayo Kamati and his 1-2 punch. Jews are the problem, part 1, and part 2, Ayo Kamati's blockbuster, Jews are the problem, thy psychology of the Jew. This is a 1-2 punch, Brother Io. War near rising, and he's bad man. I call him King George. George Soros, the one who controls the Democratic Party, hoodman and sinker. And he's a King George. The man behind the curtain, he has his tentacles and everything. And the life and time and trading secrets of the world's greatest investor. It'll tell you how he got his riches. But in the beginning, what he did in Hungary. That's why they don't want to see his face over there. But this guy, King George, and his son, Alex, is in complete control. And they have the pictures to prove it. So read about King George, George Soros, and you will find out he controls everything and basically everyone. I found this book, The Secret History of Jewish World Domination, The Synagogues of Satan, Andrew Carrington Hitchcock. Excellent book. I found it laying in the street. Just picked it up and kept it moving. Anybody that gets into the entertainment industry should get this book. All these phony baloney guys who are supposed to have all this money, the Jay-Z's, the whatever the other guy from Queens, and all these supposed to be rappers and all this in the entertainment industry. Before you get into anything in the entertainment industry, you better read this book, How the Jews Invented Hollywood. And one of the first movies that did us in as black people was Birth of a Nation. And how they set up theaters. And they did not like Neil Gerbler for writing this book. And every head of every studio, How the Jews Invented Hollywood. And it's a relatively cheap book you can get now. But see, these folks that's making all this money, that's only front people for the big boys behind them, they show us them. And then they got the nerve to make us think that these two guys are making decisions on a casino where all the old people are going to lose their Social Security check every month. So you better get ready to loan your grandma or your mother or your grandfather some money after they lose their money in the casinos. And then they give you these black faces that ain't making no decision. It's totally disgusting. Empire Leon, How the Jews Invented Hollywood and invented things about themselves. Excellent publication. Blockbuster book, Medicine, Dr. Scott Whitaker out of Georgia. The medical sins that are killing us. And Dr. Scott in this book tells you everything about fake meat, laboratory meat, against real meat, vegetables, chemicals. I want to thank Dr. Scott. Okay, so I'm going to give you these books. I found this book, Mark Sloan, The Cancer Industry, Crime, Conspiracy, and the Death of His Mother. He happened to write a book. Neither safe nor effective, the evidence against the CO vaccine. Dr. Colleen Herbert. And I found these books, man. They was like on the street. Vax versus unvax. Kennedy, down the CO rabbit hole. Kennedy, the medical pharmaceutical killing machine. Capitalism on the ventilator, the money that was made with the ventilators, the Wuhan cover-up, Rand Paul deception when he was grilling Anthony Fauci. The real Anthony Fauci, all these books is there. Naomi Klein, Pfizer wanted to hold the information of this book for 75 years. But through the Freedom of Information Act, they forced them to publish it. And it has all the data. It has pictures of what happens to your blood after taking stuff. The vaccine timeline. This book goes into the history of vaccines. It even gets into how the Rockefellers went through the Flexner report, and Flexner was not a doctor. Where they give you pharmaceuticals instead of natural approaches. So this is the history of vaccines, and it goes from the 1700s. A fact-packed history of vaccines and their makers. In this last book, Edward Dow was an analyst for BlackRock, and they wanted to find out how all these healthy young kids, football players, track stars, waking up dead on the football fields in their high school. How did it happen? Well, Edward Dow gets into the causes and solution. Here's a football player just collapsed on the field, young, in the weight room, young. So you can get these books, do your own research. I got some community events real quick. Thorough Black Talk, Brother Tag, Sister Keisha, Brother Blacksmith, Sister Mama, and Sister Brooke. That's the tag team. Double Trouble every Thursday at 8 o'clock on YouTube. And it's worldwide. So it's Blog Talk Radio. They come on every Thursday at 8 o'clock. Also, that's Thorough Black Talk. Also, Blog Talk Radio, Sister Empress Chi, Brother Lumumba, El Pollinator, Brother Moses, and everybody from Philly. Excellent program. I heard Dr. Mack and them was down there. So they did an excellent program. Dr. Mack brought them back with WBAI Minefield about the young ladies being missing all over the place. And nobody seems to care on what's happening to our young girls. Somebody is snatching them. We need an army of people. We have to tell them, do not dress the way the European in the entertainment industry have you dressing with everything all over the place. We have to start. So I want to thank Sister Empress. Blog Talk comes on every Saturday at 10 o'clock. It's a Zoom meeting, and Brother Lumumba and them have programs coming on through the whole week on what's going on out of Philly. Big ups to them, but the Saturday program is real deep, starts at 10 o'clock. Ayo Kamati, the Irritated Genie on Sankofa Revolutionary Radio. We want to thank Brother Anthony Mohammed, WSYP 95.1. If you Google Sankofa Revolutionary Radio, on Monday, the 9 o'clock program has Dr. Haru with his excellent update on health and products and information at 9 to 10, and then from 10 to 11, you got the Blockbuster Irritated Genie comes on, and that's it. Both of those are call-in programs, so any questions you want to ask them, you call in and ask them. So we want to thank Anthony Mohammed and Sankofa Revolutionary Radio. Our Blockbuster friend out of Baltimore, Darren Mohammed, State of the City, the Saturday program at 12 o'clock on State of the City, Baltimore, and comes on YouTube. That's 12 o'clock. Every Saturday, 2 hours of power-packed information. And then he comes on during the week, sometime Wednesday, sometime Thursday. You have to keep up with him. You can friend him and understand and get all the information. We want to give big ups to Darren Powerhouse Muhammad out of Baltimore. Also, every Tuesday at 3 o'clock, Dr. Aline, Your Immunity Project. He comes on at 3 o'clock. That's a live program. You can ask any medical questions to Dr. Aline. It's a live program at 3. But then he comes back on at 7. You can't ask no questions. It's a rebroadcast, and they have Califani Radio. So Dr. Aline is giving out good stuff, and you can ask him any question you want. Also, we have the African Echoes Study Group. That's a double header, Friday, Saturday. Friday, 8 o'clock, African Echoes. That's a study group with True and the gang, and then they're doing the psychology of self-hatred. Then Saturday they come back with a Blockbuster, the Know Thyself Study Group, out of Asbury Park, and Brother True and Trust, they're doing the destruction of black civilization. So if you don't believe that we had it, if you think we had it together, you better think twice, because trusting them is deeply going into that book to see the flaws and the mistakes we made as a people in that great continent that ruled for thousands of years. So that's the African Echoes and Know Thyself study group, 1-2 punch. The Simultap organization, Dr. James McIntosh, in his fight with Netflix in the redid of the Good Times TV series, how they disgustingly redid it and just disrespect us. That's why this book, Empire of Their Own, is so important, because you can see how the Jews and the people in Hollywood just did blackface. They just ran, look at Kimball, blackface, disrespecting us in front of our face. So the people in the entertainment industry, how they just degrade us, dog us, and made these movies and show it all over the world. And we still flock to the movie theaters. We still give them their money. We still give them the money. But you don't want to know how they systematically set this thing up. And they control the whole media. And whoever controls the media controls the mind. They can put anything on there. And we believe it. Hook, line, and sinker. Hook, line, and sinker. So those are some programs that come on. The UNIA, Raymond is doing an excellent job in what he's trying to do. President Raymond Dugal and General President Michael Duncan, in honor of Marcus Garvey, they're in the process of trying to reprogram every African mind. Every African mind, and they're doing it one mind at a time. They have their own store, The Rock, out in Queens. Excellent, excellent, excellent. It's the mini Jetros. So they're trying their best to do their thing. So we want to give big ups. So those are just some community information that we have. You can view all of the BK History Mackey's group lectures with Dr. Lewis. He has a 12-part series on the Sahel region. That's there, and every lecture is there. You could go into it, and if you have any questions, you could always come down. The speakers is here and ask anything you want. So those are what's going on in the community. There's a lot of things going on in New York. So get ready. And this is a good time to be alive, to dissect all this nonsense that's going on. Because it's a big fight going on. And when, in the street, they have a habit of saying, that so-and-so ain't worth 2 cents. Oh, this and that. Well, in New York, it's all out. You can see who the phony balonies are. You can see, it's right in front of your face. The fight. And we're going to be in the same predicament. Because they're not even mentioning us no more. We're not even in the mix. They don't even speak about us. Because they got our replacements. So ladies and gentlemen, coming back, this is part 2 on the threat to humanity. Our good friend, Dr. Lewis, Africans helping Africans. He's been with us for years and he's still coming through, and we have to get his stuff out there so he knows what's going on. I want everybody to give a great big hand. Oh, we got a couple of minutes. So he's going to come in, but a lot of things is happening. So when you try to get some of these books and read and see what's going on, because it's a lot of changes. And whoever puts stuff on the media, you can see it. The first 48 hours, as Brother Darren says, is most important. So don't fall for the okie doke. Do not fall for the okie doke. What's going on is going on. And Doc? So the Mackey's group meets every other Wednesday, and we try our best to keep the lectures are live. It's nothing like coming out for a live lecture. It's nothing like talking to people like Miss Leola used to just come down and no matter the weather she would come down. You know. So the information is out there, the fight. The houses in New York is $2 and $3 million. It seems like you'll never be able to buy a house now. Not in New York. You'll be pushed out. You know, you'll be renters. So we got to get our stuff together. And individually, you better get it together because our replacements are here. They already allocated money to help people out. So individually, you ready, Doc? You know, you gotta be able to do what you gotta do. So we have these books. One of the things about this vaccine timeline, it gives you a brief history. This book is actually going into the history from the 1800s. It has everything. So that's, you know, that's the cause of it. So when you're not doing nothing, the programs is here for everybody to find out and get the information because they're not going to stop. They want to pull these things off, and if we just keep letting it go, you know, what's going to happen? You know, what's going to happen? Africa is on the move. The Sahel region, you know. So you know, Sister Asada, may she rest in peace. And I want to thank the people of Cuba for protecting her, Castro for letting her come in, you know. So ladies and gentlemen, a friend of Mackey's, Dr. Lewis has been here. He's an excellent, and you can come here and ask him anything pertaining to health. His videos on the sea, on the big C, they took it off as soon as he put it on. They removed it. It was so tough. And what they're saying now, he said it years ago. And excellent to have him with us. Anybody can always come down and talk to him and get any kind of medical advice, you know. And that's the blessing of a Dr. Lewis, you know. And his stuff on Africa is impeccable. That's why we want to make sure we keep him on. We get his lectures on YouTube so they can stay there, so the history could be, you could go over it, look at it, study it. Because Africa has been taking care of the world for so many years, and they're still dependent on it. How can an area so rich in natural resources, so rich in land, that the world ganged up on us, and we're still taking care of the world? The world needs every bit of Africa. The diamonds, the cobalt. I brought some oranges the other day. I came from the gym, I brought some oranges, tangerines from Africa. So the world is dependent on it, but they're moving slowly but surely. They're putting things together, and it's gonna happen. Ready, Doc? So ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. please get the books on this. Put your hands together, and we want to thank Doc for coming down as always to give his information and for people to study on what's going on. So give a great big hand to the keynote speaker, Dr. Arthur Lewis. Just wanted to let him get a little something in his stomach, and he's here.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Lewis. I would just like to extend my appreciation to Ray Ray and his family and his crew that makes it possible for the Mackeys to do 3 lecture series to be produced on a bi-weekly basis and to have a number of speakers and individuals come, primarily from the African community, with the intent of those who come to speak to you, come with the aspiration that we want to exchange information. You have the presenters here that talk to you about many different subjects that are important to us on a contemporary, ongoing basis. The different individuals who come to talk or speak, each has some area that they have experience in or that they live through that they feel is necessary to come and talk in this forum to exchange the information. There's no information that we talk about, exchange, is any better than any other information. It's all information with the intent to give you information to make your life safer, to make your life and your family more productive. The presentation that we're going to do today, as most of my presentations, is going to be material, some material that you have in your possession. Other materials that I have that I will read to you. The purpose of this type of presentation is to have a discussion at the end of the presentation. But in order for you to have a discussion, meaning that there has to be an interaction between myself and the audience here, interaction between myself and the audience that joins us electronically, and that it's not a one-way presentation where you sit and you listen and you listen and you listen, and then you say, well, okay, I listen. People watch as I watch them. People watch television, they watch shows on their cell phones. And they watch for different reasons. Some people look at these devices and come to the lecture to hear people talk. The purpose is to exchange information that we feel that we each need. But if I have prepared this information, I know what the information is, because I prepared it. Did whatever necessary research in this journal, this book, or from personal experience, what's current events. And I know what's here, as I said, because I put it together. Now I have to convey it to you so that you will have an opportunity to absorb the information so that we can talk to each other. You know, I give an example, I still practice certain types of medicine where I do eye examinations, usually one-on-one with patients. Not surgery, not medication, not any of these types of procedures, but basic evaluation on their vision, what they may need. But I always remind the patient that comes in to the particular clinic that there are two people in this room. I'm here, the physician, and you here as an individual who you came and gave me the opportunity to work with you. So anything that I hope to achieve on that examination with that particular patient or patients has to be based on, predicated with the fact that there's two of us here, or the patient may bring others. We have to talk to each other. It's not a one-way street. It's not, oh, we examine you, this is what we find, and you do this. No. You're there for a reason. You take a history of that person, who they are, their age, what's your needs. Then we go through a certain procedure to try to achieve that end. And what we finally come up with is an answer. We come up with a way of recommending. But that is not based upon what I said. It's based upon what I, with that individual or groups, talk to each other and say, this is what we come up with at this time that will best address that. So that's why, with that foundation, I have given you one sheet. That sheet has information on the front and it has information on the back. That sheet will be the opening presentation to about 5 other subjects that I will read to you because of the time element, and I have it. The purpose is for me to transfer the information that I feel that was important enough for you to know that I come to you and you come to hear. So I must give you that information on the subject so that you will absorb what is he trying to do, what am I going to get out of it. But also at the end of the presentation we have to have question and answers. You can't have question and answers on a subject that you're just learning about until we give you the information. Each of us here are adults, and we also have an accumulation of experience in our adult life, such that we're capable of absorbing information and exchanging. So this is not a one-way where I give you the information, you get up and you walk. Because I can put this together as a pamphlet, but I choose not to do it that way. In my ability to talk to people and lecture on a medical basis and on a historical basis. The type of information I've given would be hundreds of pages. I just don't officially put it in a book, and then you read it and you buy it. Because what a lot of the information we need, you need it now. Now, the situation is occurring now. You need to know about it now, not 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later. So this is basically current events about a subject matter that's directly related to your life, your family, and your community. Oh, this doesn't have anything to do with me. It has everything to do with you. So in this presentation, I'm going to deal with a number of different countries so that we will get a global view. The first that you do not have presentation is going to be dealing with Venezuela because of what is presently happening in Venezuela as it relates to the United States. An additional presentation will be an extension of Venezuela because it's very, very important to illustrate how the United States of America functions with other countries. Now you say, well why is that important to me? Because the United States, like any country, especially a white-run country, that has been built on colonization and slavery and theft. They think a certain way. That's the purpose of it. So Venezuela is happening now, and it's related to what's going to happen in the future. This sheet that we gave to you, which is where we're going to start, but I want you to see the pieces. It covers, if you look at the sheet, the American Revolution from 1775 to 1783. That's what we're going to start with. But when we start with that, that's the preparation to understand what we're going to talk about in Venezuela as it relates to the United States. You don't have it, we're going to then deal with Canada as it relates to the United States. Then we're going to deal with Mexico as it relates to the United States. Your country that you're living in here, these are things that are happening right now. There's no sense in putting it in the book and won't mean anything. You need it now. Then we're going to deal with a situation that 7 countries in Eastern and Western Asia, you call the Middle East, collectively has done something that is going to profoundly affect this country yesterday. So we're dealing with things that are relevant. What does it got to do with me? When you don't get that gas to put in your car. So what are the components? We're going to deal with the United States Revolution. We're going to deal with Venezuela, Canada, and Mexico. The reason I chose Canada and Mexico because these 2 countries is north of the United States and south. And the purpose of presenting it, I want you to see the trend that the big, powerful, highly industrialized America that came out of World War II and up to 1970 was the powerhouse. And no longer it's the powerhouse. It's a country that the rest of the world doesn't need. If it disappeared, the rest of the world would be better off. That's the importance of it. Because if you don't know what's going on domestically and foreign, everything that's happening globally affects you directly. And the reason is that the way the United States, and I'm usually talking about the United States of America, the way it treats you as an African person in slavery and today, that's exactly the same way they're treating the rest of the world. And if you don't like it, the rest of the world does not like it. But I want you to see reality. That's what it's about. Giving the examples. And the reason Canada, Mexico, and Venezuela, the three countries, because those are the three most important countries to the United States of America. Canada, Mexico, and Venezuela. To this country's ability to even have oil in 2 or 3 days, or to even pay its debt. Okay, so we're going to start with this sheet that you have, and then we're going to go here. Now, I'm going to read it so that the people who do not have this will know what we're talking about. So you say, why is he starting with the American Revolution? Why? And we're going to read it quickly because I want to illustrate to you that the white people of the 13 colonies didn't fight any revolution. They didn't have enough guns or anything. They did not fight. Okay? Now, then we're going to end with the Monroe Doctrine. 3 things on this sheet. And I have to read it to you because I have to review the history that you haven't done. So if I'm doing it, I just can't read this and say, I got to show you the relevance. So here I'm going to read. You have it. American Revolution 1775 to 1783. You see what happened in this whole nonsense about white people running and making this country with all of these immigrants, so-called immigrants that they're bothering with. You go in the books and you see that Donald Trump's grandfather was an immigrant, only 2 generations away, who left his country in Europe as a draft dodger. You look up not Bill Gates, is one of the rich, I think is, okay, let's just use Bill Gates. Example, his grandfather came one generation before Trump. Every one of these Europeans who came here from 1850 to now came running from Europe from wars, famine, and disease. That's what they're running from. None of them brought a damn thing here. So that's what you have to do. So let Trump and they run this thing about we. Okay, so we have to understand, and we have to say it, that there would be no United States of America. As one of the speakers mentioned that I took from them, United States is stolen land, stolen people. So all of these white people and everybody, all the riches and stuff, nothing, no contribution. They didn't even fight the war. So you look it up. The American Revolution, 1775, 1783. You can look this up, but I already did it. I'm taking the information. I wasn't there, so I'm going through the books. I'm putting it together. I didn't create any of this. Like Dr. Ben said, he didn't create Egypt. His job was to expose Africans globally and give African people Egypt back from the white man trying to say it wasn't. So that's all I'm doing. Okay, now, American Revolution, 1775, 1783. 13 British colonies fought on one end, the French Empire, the American colonies, and the Spanish Empire. 3 countries fought against Britain. The colonies broke away from Britain. Britain was the mother of these colonies. They wanted to break away, but they didn't have the power to break away. So the French and the Spanish Empire fought against the British Empire, and Britain used Hessians. So the American Revolution was between 2 major European powers, the French and the British. On 2/6/1778, there was in 1778 a French-American Treaty of Alliance. United States colonies sat down with the French in Europe. That's why one of the students asked me, was Malcolm X a slave? And I tell him, no, Malcolm X was not a slave. So I had to explain to him, like all of us, when you talk about an event, you got to talk about what location on earth are you talking about and what time period. So you had the American Revolution was fought between the French and the Spanish Empire on one end, the British Empire with the help of some Germans on the other one. United States colonists was a side. The United States colonists sent a group of people over to talk with the French. In 1778, the French-American Treaty of Alliance. So the French, these British colonies went to France and they made a deal with France. Come and help us get rid of the British, and these are the things we can do together. So I just copied now what was the basic arrangement that the colonists made with France. French supply revenue, credit, and finance. British didn't have any money. Number two, France will supply the military equipment and support. 3, France will recognize the colonies as independent as conditions of peace. 4, aid each other if attacked by Britain. Military pact, military support. Not make peace with British separately. A mutual guarantee of French possession in the West Indies and American possession in the North. They got together and say, look, when we get rid of the British, we're going to cut up the Caribbean. For A, France guarantees the right to conquer British territories in the Caribbean, the American entitled to conquer land. So basically you had a group of Europeans in the colony who wanted to break away from Britain because they were being mistreated by British, just like Africans are mistreated. They were tortured, they had all of the things you suffer, these colonies suffer. And what did the French and the Spanish? So the war was between France, Spain on one end, and Britain the other ones. This is what the French supported the United States. Ships, 63 ships, 12,000 soldiers, 22,000 sailors, gunpowder, 300 pounds of gunpowder, muskets, 80, tents, clothing, pistols, rifles, cannons, artillery. The United States colony didn't have a damn thing to fight. British was a power then. So they made a military agreement. If we knock the British off, I won't touch your colonies in the Caribbean if you don't interfere with me taking over the rest of this land. They made a second agreement. That's a military. They call the French-American Treaty of Amity. Again, between the king and the Second Continental. And what did they agree to? After the war. Well, how could we work? This is what the colonies with the British. Reciprocal commercial advantage. We can work together. Establish diplomatic relations. That's these 13 colonies talking with the French on how they're going to get together when they get rid of the British. Establish diplomatic relations. 3, exchange diplomatic agents. 4, mutual benefit-free intercourse. 5, equal treatment, exchange of advantages. Regular commercial navigation. Spain and other empires to join. Mutual commercial and navigational rights. Formal diplomatic relationship. U.S. formed a recognition of independence. So basically, the reason that we put it here is just to show you these 13 colonies wanted to get what? The British, the British who made those colonies were doing 2 things to them. Mistreating them and taking away from them. They wanted to break away. That's why they joined together as a country. The same thing with the Sahel nation. The 3 Sahel nations, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Nigeria, they joined as a confederation to provide their security. Let's turn to the back of that page. There was the Monroe Doctrine. We have to review the history. I know it's dry and etc., but in order to understand what is going on and the question, you got to understand it. You got to at least get exposed to see the concept. The Monroe Doctrine. So the Europeans, just like Russia and Ukraine, they all fighting in Europe. The Europeans never stop fighting. So at this time of the revolution here, the French was in full-scale war with Britain, whether it's Italy and Russia. And so they took advantage. So here is in 1823, the U.S. foreign policy, the U.S. Revolution. Okay, revolution. This is the Monroe Doctrine. You hear about it. The United States says no European country can come and mistreat the Caribbean people and the people of South America. Why?
Because that was very strictly for them to do.
Pardon me?
I'm sorry, brother.
No, that's okay. The reason that they, in 1823, United States, this is what the Monroe Doctrine said. What was happening at that time? The French Revolution. France was fighting a revolution. There was called the Napoleonic War, 1709 to 1850. What was the Napoleonic War? France was fighting against Britain, Germany, Spain, Netherlands. In other words, after the United States got their independence, the Europeans were fighting each other to such an extent they were not able to come back to the Caribbean. So the United States said, look, we're the most powerful people here. We're going to put the Monroe Doctrine that says all of the Central South American Caribbean we will steal from. And then this is what the Monroe Doctrine said. The United States said to the European countries. No further colonization in the Western Hemisphere. No future interference. No interference with newly independent countries. Basically, the Monroe Doctrine was a doctrine by the United States saying to the Europeans, you cannot come over here and interfere with anybody in the Caribbean because we are going to go and use the Caribbean, South America. That's where we're going to steal from in the future. That's what the Monroe Doctrine was. The intent. So the people who got this country had no intent to give anybody anything. Constitution tells you right there. This is for our prosperity. So the mistreatment that you're suffering from, you shouldn't be upset about it, but because when you look back, you should be upset, but when you look back who's running the country, the same white British people who run the country today, their ancestors were the same one who killed down the indigenous people by the millions, who participated in the African slave trade, who brought you here slave, and nothing changed. That's the point. Now I'm going to deal with Venezuela. It should take us about half an hour to present the thing, then we do questions now. You have to be up to date or do the best you can on foreign affairs. So it might seem like it's boring, but it's important. We're dealing with Venezuela. If you haven't been keeping up, the United States has brought some warships and planes to Venezuela stating that Venezuela is a drug country. And what they want to do is they want to go in, invade, like they did to Gaddafi, like they did to Iraq. They want to go in, bomb it out, and then steal everything. Because when they killed Gaddafi, they bombed it out. They stole Gaddafi's, those in that country, they stole their oil, they stole their gold, all of their minerals, and the oil. That's what they want to do to Venezuela. So So there's a lot of material, but I'm going to make this thing as sharp as I can, and you will decide whether or not the United States is going to be successful. So there are about 7 or 8 warships, there's some airplanes, and there are 4,000 U.S. troops put there poised in front of Venezuela. They're not in Venezuela's space, but they're right there. So let's see whether or not the United States will be successful in going in and overthrowing the government of Venezuela. So I'm going to read you some basic facts, takes 5 minutes, and you'll make the decision in the question and answer. Venezuela has Russia and China as allies. And what is Russia supplying to Venezuela? Military assistance, military advisors, advanced anti-aircraft weapons. Russia has warships there. China is also assisting Venezuela in infrastructure and developing their oil. Iran, I'm going to push it up. Iran is there helping Venezuela. And so I'm going to give you these facts and question and answer. You decide whether or not the United States, with 7 or 8 warships, airplanes, and 4,000 soldiers, they're going to go in and invade Venezuela. Venezuela population is 29 million people. Now, the United States has 4,000 troops that's going to go in against, in a population of 29 million. The square area of Venezuela is 350,000 square miles. Venezuela is twice the size of California and 3 times the size of Texas. Think they could invade, take that country with 4,000 men? They have in their military 200,000 men armed, and they have a militia of about 8,000. So Trump and them are telling you they're going to make a military threat to Venezuela after Venezuela is backed by Russia, China, Iran, Cuba, and other countries. With 4,000 men, and Venezuela has over 200,000 soldiers. But that's to the American people. One of the reasons they're there is they want to see if they can take Venezuela's oil.
That's right. Resource.
Now, because there's so much material, what I'm going to do is weave it in and abbreviate it. Venezuela has the largest known oil deposits. Why would the United States be interested in Venezuelan oil? I'll give you the website here. Global Alert. So I have to jump back and forth. There's too much material to go through it, so I'm going to try to weave it in. So the United States is threatening Venezuela. That oil. There's on the internet, now this is something we have to check. They're reporting that there's 7 Persian Gulf countries canceling all oil and gas to the United States last week. Who are these countries that's no longer going to do business with the United States to sell oil, if the reports are correct?
Russia's one.
Middle East, those countries, the Arab countries, you call them Middle East. Saudi Arabia, cutting all oil from the United States. United Arab Emirates, cutting all oil of the United States. And I will tell you where they diverted it to. 3, Kuwait, cutting off all oil to the United States. Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, and Iraq. Then when you look at each of those, the reason they're cutting it off, if the reports are true, is because of their backing to Israel and what the United States have done. Each of them have their own grievance. The Iraqis for the invasion. Now, if this is true, you're going to have some severe shortages of oil, if it is true. So this is some of the blowback that is coming from the rest of the world because of the relationship of what the United States has been doing. So maybe the United States said, let's try to get Venezuelan oil because maybe these Arab countries and these Muslim countries are going to cut us all oil. Canada. There's a country called, an area in Europe called Greenland. Greenland used to be populated by human beings you call Eskimos. Now it's populated by white people from Denmark because they took the land. The same way they took the land in the United States, in Canada, in Australia. They took the land. So Trump says he's going to make America great again. Then the Greenland, he's going to buy Greenland. So what Greenland is, it's controlled by Denmark. So while Trump is telling you that he's going to buy Greenland, they say Greenland already made contracts with the European countries and Canada to help them develop the oil, the gas, and the minerals. So what he's telling you about that, it ain't working. They said they don't want to deal with the United States. The United States put tariffs on them for steel and aluminum. So now what Canada is doing is beginning to do trade relations with the Europeans, the Asians, China, Japan, and they're cutting many of the economic ties with the United States. Boeing is going to begin to relocate their factories to Canada because of the tariff. Walmart is going to start relocating to Mexico and Canada. Canada is now doing a lot of trade with other countries. For instance, Canada just made a new pipeline and was going to ship the oil to the United States. Instead, now they're shipping it to China. Canada was going to give to the United States, according to this information, U.S. corporations to build their militaries. They're giving it to Europeans. So what I'm trying to do in a short period of time is to show you the trading group, Canada and Mexico. They're beginning to divert their trade away from the United States. The tourism to the United States has dropped about 50%.
More than that.
Or more. So what is happening is the people of the United States of America, if you're not following it, any country that trades today does not have to come to the United States for anything because there's enough countries that got everything. Those wars, those invasions, and the mistreatment of the rest of the world. If you know how you were treated and still treated here as an African and you don't like it, just the rest of the world has been suffering the same. But now they have the rest of the world. Mexico, the African countries. They have power now to break away. In Burkina Faso,
Yes.
they make a tariff on a nut. I always, there's a nut, a plant.
Pistachio?
Is it? Anyhow, they put an embargo on it from Burkina Faso. And what Burkina Faso did was pick up the phone, talk to China. China says, I'll take all of what you have, and we'll make an arrangement for you to get factories and everything else. So what I'm trying to do in a manner to give you a gist of what is happening to your northern neighbor, they're breaking off ties with the United States, to the southern area, Mexico, to Europe. They say that after Trump got in with the tariffs, the amount of trade that comes from Asia, it's Japan, South Korea, and China. The amount of goods coming to the east coast of the United States is down 50%. So you're going to deal with shortages and everything else. What Trump wanted to do, there's a Columbian River that runs from Canada into U.S. Trump says they want to control that river. The Canadians says we're not going to control it because what they wanted to do, according to the reports, is there's a drought in California, Arizona, and one of the other states. And the Americans the white people wanted to divert the Columbian water that comes from Canada into the United States and divert it and give the water to the West. They told them no. Trump and them wanted to control Canadian ports. They told them no. So if you think you have problems, these other countries have problems, but these countries have power. So they told them we're not diverting the Columbia River to cut the drought down in California and Arizona and New Mexico. That's where 60% of your food is there. When they said they're not going to let the United States take control of their ports. Now the thing with Greenland, it has a lot of vast minerals. It's like a mini in Africa. A lot of minerals, golds and stuff. That trade is going to the Europeans, the Japanese, and the Chinese. The United States is not going to get any cut of it. H-1B visas. H-1B visas are visas that you give to a country. They're foreigners, and they want to let the foreigners in to come and work
Here.
Okay?
Special students.
They say that the United States has 730,000 H-1B visa people working in the United States. So Trump says, we're going to make money off of them. So he raised the tariff to say, if you want to come back to the United States, we'll let you in. Normally you would pay a fee, maybe $3,000 to come back in. Pardon me?
Maybe 10 grand?
Yeah. He now wants to raise the fee to $100,000.
Yeah.
From how much?
$100,000.
From how much was it originally?
$3 grand.
$3,000.
To $100,000?
100.
Is he crazy?
You know where the people are coming back? Where they're going? The Canadians said, we'll take all of you. Because these 750,000 are skilled people. They've gotten from around the world that keeps most of your high tech and your computer, most of that's foreigners. So now, the United States is going, that advantage they had in electronics and everything else is going to go away because nobody got 100,000 to give you. They're going up to Canada. They're going to Mexico. So the other thing, the question you have to ask is, America first. We're going to rebuild America. So you would have to ask Trump, why is it that you have 730,000 foreigners coming into the country working with these key jobs, and you got millions of American youth going to college,
No job.
getting locked down with the debt, got no job to come out. So you letting your citizens, kids, come out in debt. How come the young people here aren't getting these jobs? So when they talk about America, the reason that I used the American revolutions to try to for us to re-understand that was white people trying to get away from other white people, their cousins and uncles, for themselves. And they brought us here and enslaved us and killed down the indigenous people. And for those of you who think any damn thing have changed, that's the purpose of why I'm here. Just a reminder, not a damn thing changed. You still do what you gotta do. Just understand that. So, there's a number of other things there. So you have the tariff. So basically what is happening is the tariffs, the United States industrial base has to compete with the rest of the world. And Boeing and the rest of these countries say, we're leaving. We out of here. Because there's nothing that United States makes, or there's no service that United States can produce that somebody else isn't doing it. If it wasn't for these 730,000, Monsieur Kaku said on one of his programs, he said most of your PhDs in the United States are Indian or Chinese. Most of the people who are in these high levels are Indian and Chinese. And he asked why. He said because you do not want to educate your American youth. You want cheap labor. He said, you know what's happening now? The Chinese and Indians are going back. Now what you want to do? He's telling them, you should have been educating your own. So if these H-1B visas left, what's going to happen to your country? It's going to collapse. In other words, the people who've been running this country, okay, I have to jump because it's too much material. I want to read for you MAGA. I have to introduce it to interweave so we can get the question and answer. We heard about MAGA, right? MAGA? M-A-G-A, if I'm saying it right? Okay, now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump to MAGA. It's too much information for me to take it in the sequence here. Okay, I'm going to get it on the cell phone and I'm going to read it to you. It takes you 3 or 4 minutes. Let me put the phone on. See, the key thing is, in any country, the most important thing is how does your government relate to you? That's critical, because we're all here. Why is it that the government made a rule, red line, and says, African people, black people, you can't live here, you can't have this, you can't have that, other people can have it. So I'm going to read to you the MAGA. And what I'm trying to do is to get us to understand the fundamental concept of who we are living in this country with and what this country has done to the rest of the world that affects how we live here. Okay, it's a short clip. It's called MAGA Movement, Meaning, Belief, Origin, Donald Trump, and Fact, and it's called Britannia. Very short. Hopefully it'll come in. Okay, now, right here. I'll give you the link. I'm gonna read it. It takes 5 minutes, but you gotta hear it. MAGA movement, Britannia. MAGA movement, nativist political movement that emerged in the United States during the 2016 presidential campaign of its putative leader, Donald Trump. Its name is derived from Trump's 2016 campaign slogan, "Make America Great Again," which has been a rallying cry for many Trump supporters ever since. A variant of the "Make America Great Again" was first popularized by the Republican President Ronald Reagan, who used, quote, "Let's make America great again" as one of his several slogans for the 1980 presidential campaign. Trump reportedly coined the phrase, quote, "Make America Great Again" in November 2012, just after Mitt Romney, the former Republican governor of Massachusetts, lost the 2012 presidential election to Barack Obama. Trump filed an application to trademark the slogan for the purpose of promoting public awareness of political issues and fundraising in the field of politics. Let's see how this mega thing turns out. Beliefs, value, character of the mega movement. Now, whatever they say here, you decide in your mind how it relates to you as an African in the United States. The MAGA movement, often referred to simply as MAGA or Make America Great Again, was founded on the belief that the United States was once a great country. Now think about why and who made America no longer great.
The Negro.
Okay? Was once great, the United States was once a great. They will now tell you who made it not great. And you're not going to be shocked. Who made good America great? These white people talking about a country that was put together from extermination and slavery, and then you come the last 150 years, millions of you, tens of millions of you, disease and food, and now you the good people. And everybody else here is the bad people who no longer made America great. So now they're making America great.
Have to watch their move back.
Okay?
Backyard.
The United States was once a great country.
Looks like we're back.
But, you ready?
Okay. To be continued.
Okay, all right. Good, Doc.
Okay.
Backward?
Yeah.
The great was founded on the belief that the United States was once a great country, but has lost that status. Who made America not great? They lost the status. Lost its status owing to foreign influence. All of these foreign people, whoever they are, made America bad. But who went around the world in the last 50 or 60 years bombing, killing, murdering? But all of these, blaming on all of these other people around the rest of the world why America's not great. But has lost the status owing to foreign influence both within its borders. Those foreigners outside the borders and inside, and the white people don't know they are the foreigners. You can't come here 100 years ago, 150 years ago, and you're the standard and everybody else who came after. The borders said, but has lost the status owing to foreign influence both within its borders. Violent immigration and multiculturalism. The fact that all these immigrants are coming in, all of these people were immigrants, and multicultural, what does that mean? The culture of the Africans, the culture of the Arabs? It's white racism. This is Nazism. That's what they're saying. Who made the damn country not great, but all you immigrants, all you multicultural, and without via globalization or the increase of integration of multiple national entities. So America is now no longer great because all you immigrants, all you black people, all you non-white people. That's what they're saying. You don't have to believe it. You just put it in and plug it in and see whether you have experiences. It's something, or this has never happened. Black people, Mexican people, non-white people, they have always been treated good. They were never scapegoated. You see whether it's true. So what made it not great again? Founded on the belief that the United States was once a great country. They didn't say how it got there, okay. But has lost the status within its borders via immigration, multiculturalism, and without via globalization or the increased integration of multiple national identities. Mega members think that this fall from grace can be reversed through America First policy that will provide a greater degree of economic protectionism, greatly reduce immigration, and particularly from developing countries, and encourage or enforce that mega members consider to be traditional American values. Some megas supported policies such as Trump called in 2015 for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the country would have involved egregious racial or religious discrimination. America ever had that? Never ever discrimination or anything? Or racial discrimination among the policies eventually adopted or at least pursued during Trump's term. So basically, you decide if this is right or is this consistent with the history of this country, that the reason the country is not great, again, has nothing to do with the fact that the United States came out of World War II, the most powerful country economically, militarily, politically, because the rest of the world was down. Most of Africa was colonized. Most of Asia was colonized. Most of the Caribbean was colonized by white people in the last 200 or 300 years. So I pull this out, trying to make this cake, a nice cake out of the different parts, to let you see pieces of what you experience here, to say, you know, what's going on. So now, the problem with America, and now why the jobs are gone, wait now, in 1970, for the next 20 years, who outsourced all the industrial base? White men. I don't make a distinction between German, Jews, and all. White men who run the country. Exactly. They wanted to make money. Exactly. To send the factories to China so that they could have dirt cheap labor and a whole market. So in other words, the deindustrialization of the country was between 1970 up until the last, take whatever, 1970, 80, 90, 2000. That's what deindustrialized. That's what brought on the greatest lost value of white American workers, because most of us didn't have the job. When they used to be able to have 3 cars and it was good. That was the best period that white people lived in America, the masses, after 1960, 70, 80, 90, then all the jobs left. United States deindustrialized. Never asked the question, why is it that 2 or 3% of the population, all white, owns 95% of the wealth in the country? Right. Or you can ask, like all the presidents have done, Trump, in his first term, why did you sign off? The Congress wrote the law, and Trump signed off to give a $4 trillion tax break to the richest, most powerful, big corporations in the country when he was there.
Devastatingly.
And now that he come back the second, they repeated it, they extended it.
just what I've been hearing from independent.
So the thing about it with the mega, you hear, if this is true and you can review it, you hear the same thing. Things are bad in America. It's because of this black person, it's because of this Arab person, it's because all of the immigrants. And never once talk about how the country
I think we have back
runs.
to the program now.
Okay, I'll be quiet.
Give thanks.
Okay. So the gist here So to summarize, so we can shorten this up for question and answer, there's so much information. United States of America, presently, has a population of 350 million people. The question has to be asked, is half of them non-white? Non-white by the basis of those people who run the country, who define what is white and non-white. I can't. Half the country is at least. So is it that the white people who still live here, they're not living as well as their uncles and aunts and grandparents between the time 1970 up until 200. One of the reasons that United States and Europe invited China into the big economic club, because they were trying to split Russia and they were trying to split China. They wanted to be able to move the Europeans and Americans, the industry to China, make hundreds of billions of dollars, not paying American workers, mainly white. So therefore, they benefited. They deindustrialized the country. They now run the country where the average, if you're rich, 4 trillion. 4 trillion again. They made a decision. We could, let's take this $4 trillion and let the richest people with the corporation don't pay any tax. And put it down on everybody else. Then we repeat it. This time is it. Then you tell the white people, you see why you're poor? You see why there's no good jobs? Who took all your jobs away? Then they point to big at all of these foreigners. They don't tell you who foreigners are, but we know the code word, all of these people of color and the traditional values. And then the thing about it is you have to ask yourself the question. Most of the white people, men who are billionaires, their grandparents came here with nothing. How do you justify that? But yet you have millions and millions of Africans and others, they don't count. But now you told your white population that America's not good anymore. Things are getting, why? Why is it that the Canadians are not want to do business with the United States? Explain that to the people. Explain why the Mexicans. Explain why the Africans. All of these people, the Canadians, the Mexicans, the Chinese, the North, South Korean, Japanese, African, nobody wants to do business with the United States. It's therefore we're not doing good. Did you ever look in the book and see what your white rulers here was doing to the rest of the world? Why they don't want to be involved with the United States? Or do they tell you that the United States is what? 4% of the world's population? Half of that is not white? Half of that is non-white? That this country's sitting with less than 2% of the white population here who used to live off everybody else. You can't live off everybody anymore. So to get at least that much in for a question and answer, because it's the question and answer in everybody's opinion, because each of us have just as much to say about what we're talking about, your treatment and the way the country is going, as I do. But I'm going to read I'm going to end here for question and answer, because the question and answer is really where we get to exchange ideas to enrich. The purpose was to show you Canada, Mexico, China, North Korea, South Korea, the Africans, they all say, we look at the UN. If you look at the UN,
Guess we're gonna have to watch this on the replay, because.
you look at the UN.
Chunks of what he's saying.
The UN was charted
Yeah,
by
that's what's
the
so
United
funny.
States and charted by the English and the French. The 5 signatures, founding members of the United Nations, is United States, France, and UK. Those 3 are the founding members. All 3 colonists. All 3 have colonies. All 3 have been killing and stealing from who? The rest of the world. Those 3. So they added on nationalist China, and they added on the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union never signed the United Nations. So you had the United Nations, and then when you look, there are 56 countries that were the original signature to the United Nations. 5, United States, England, France, nationalist China, and the Soviet Union. Soviet Union, nationalist China. Who created the United States? Every country in Africa that's now an individual country, every one of them were enslaved and colonized by the United States, France, and UK, France, United States. Wait, let's run this by. So this United Nations was put together to show the rules and regulation of how countries should be worked together. But in 1944, 45, when the United States was put together, if you now have 84 African countries, distinct African countries, now the only African country at the time the UN was put together, now we have 84 African countries. 4 African countries signed in. Egypt, which was under the control of the British, South Africa, which was under the control of whites, Ethiopia, which was free. And the other one is the one that the United States colonized. I can't, on East West Africa. Remember the sister did the presentation? I can't think of the name. 4 African countries. Ethiopia was the only one that was independent. Egypt was under the British. South Africa is under the whites. And the other one I can't think of right now. That's when the UN was added. 1 African country out of 84 was officially independent. They were all colonies. Same thing with Asia. If you look at all of the countries that are independent now, independent Asian countries, they were all under the colonial gun of the United States or France or Britain. Everyone. Look at all your Central and South American countries. The UN was put together with 95% of all of these countries under the colonial gun of the United States, France, or UK.
I'm glad you mentioned that. And,
okay? That's how much the world has changed. And those countries that were colonized by the United States, England, and France,
when you do some
they're resentful now.
Blow your mind.
They're changing the world and say we want the world to look different. We want to be able to trade and do what we have to do the best for our people. The United States and the Europeans are trying to hold our colonialism at this particular point.
Hey, put your channel information in the chat so I can get it down.
Okay, we back on, please.
Okay.
We keep losing you, Ray.
I know, I gotta call Sleaze Mobile and see what's happening.
Okay, so there are a lot of different pieces here, but I have to condense it so you see the general concept of what we're doing here. The United States is 2% of the world's population. Half of them are non-white. You have white Americans who want to hold on to the good old days when they were stealing from Africa with the English and the French, stealing from Asia with the English and the French. Now the world is changing. That's the first thing. And the second point I want to emphasize is that the treatment that we got as African people in the United States was the same treatment that the English, the French, and Americans were given to the rest of the world. So the point of it is for you to see what is going on globally and in your own life here in that context. So, what I have to do is I have to, there's so much material, I'm going to end it here with the intent that I've given enough material for any one of us to in question and answer, to decide what it is you want to do while you're here in the United States. What are some of your long-range goals? What is the, what do you expect living in a country like this? So that people want to get down to, well, what about me? These are all historic facts. But I'm worried, what about me and my family? How are we going to handle this situation? We have to understand how the world runs and what we in to completely understand what it is we have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the official presentation. There are a lot of information and concept I brought out, and I'm just going to read just a small section. So I'm putting it on myself and those of us who are here while we are together to decide how we want to deal with or discuss problems that we have here in the United States. I'm just going to end here. I'm going to read you a small section of what the United States is doing to Venezuela with the military force threatening to invade. It comes from the Workers' newspaper, one of the unions. It says, sanction kills demand and end to the U.S. aggression against Venezuela. So when you feel that you're not being treated properly, understand the rest of the world has not been treated properly by your government and still not treated properly. And that's the reason that now most of the world, non-white world, which is 95% of the world, are beginning to formulate other structures like BRICS and other structures. So I'm going to read with Venezuela. And the reason that a lot of this stuff is distant is because they don't teach it in the school. It's because there's never any discussion, radio, TV, network, about you as a citizen and what it is to be a citizen of the country. What are your aspirations? What is it that you feel you can accomplish? I'm not going to read you this. Sanction kills demand and end to U.S. aggression against Venezuela. The Workers' paper says, we condemn the escalating U.S. attack on Venezuela that has been ongoing since the Bolivian Revolution began in 1998. So this writer is saying Venezuela has had this problem with the United States since at least 1998, including pressuring the country to bend to U.S. interests through the importation of unilateral coercive measures, sanctions. You want what the country has? they don't want to give it to you, you're going to try to cut them off from credit, for food, prevent them from trading. And this is why so many countries have moved away from the United States, because this is the way the United States treated them. Now, I've been fortunate enough to travel and work in a few areas outside the United States, and that's where I get my orientation from. And I tell people I have not traveled extensively, but I travel strategically. With Dr. Ben and others in Egypt and Sudan, and Northeast Africa. Most of the Caribbean countries, not Burkina Faso, Mali, and Nigeria, but most of the Caribbean, the African countries, West African, Ghana, Ivory Coast, and a number of them. I had an opportunity with other groups, African groups, that went in to a number of countries in the Caribbean to work with the people and to work with the government, and in 2 countries in the South Pacific. And what I saw was, that's how I understand and look at things globally. Because I see how your government and its allies, United States, France, UK, Canada, Australia, they group together, called the Five Eyes. They work as a clique. Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, United States, and UK. That's the Anglo-Saxon clique that works for what's best for all Anglo-Saxon white people globally. Not a damn thing for you. They killed off a lot of the population of Australia for whites to now be the majority in Australia. They killed off a lot of African people in New Zealand. They kill off many tens of millions to get this. And the tens of millions they kill in Africa. This is the history they don't want you to understand and see, so that you don't get yourself together and say, look, we got to group together as African people to fight this problem. So that's where the interest comes from, the global aspect. Okay. And I'm going to read, it takes 5 more minutes, on what's happened in Venezuela. These illegal measures are deliberately designed to cause inhumane suffering, to destabilize the country, and to compel regime change. What does that mean to you? Oh, you mean to tell me when we were in the United States of America and the government passed laws, someone made a book out of how the United States government segregated America. What does that mean? How somebody sat down, just like they did in apartheid South Africa, just like they did to us in France, all of the colony, they sat down and said, these are black people, we don't like them, we don't want them, we hate them, we're going to give them the worst garbage, the worst food, the mistreatment, total. That's what we're suffering from. See? And this, when you travel around the world and you see the result of what France and the United States have done to your people. They did the same thing. The way you suffered, they did it to all of us, all around the world, even if you did not go to it. And by me and others going to these countries, you see the pattern. That's the point. And I'm wondering whether or not the United States now is so eager to try to get Venezuelan oil. Is it because what we read may be true? Because if the Arabs are cutting the United States out of all of this oil, you're going to have big problems. So that's something we got to watch for. These illegal measures are deliberately designed to cause inhumane suffering, destabilizing the country. Just like they destabilize you, give you low wages, cheat you, put you on credit cards, give you bad food, no good, put dope into your community. It's the same thing. But we're not made to look at it this way. It has always been clear that the sanctions on Venezuela are a plot or ploy to gain access to the country's vast natural resources, including the world's largest. The purpose in the last 300 to 500 years of Europeans going around the world colonizing is to steal. To have material things that they didn't have where they were in Europe. While the concise measures imposed on Venezuela succeed in causing over 100,000 excess deaths. So somebody's writing, for the last 15 or 20 years, the sanctions, cutting off food, denying them, it's like us here. You work in this country. You make a wage. You don't make enough money to live. That's the way they structure. You don't make enough money to buy anything. You can't put together anything that's for you. And I'll end by just reminding what happened to us as an African people after the so-called Civil War. Half of us, you're free, half of us was still on the plantation. And we were free officially, but because you couldn't leave the plantation, you had to stay and do just what you did before when you were officially slaves, but now they call you a sharecropper.
Yeah.
About a quarter of us who were on these plantations throughout the 13 colonies, the government gave land to about a quarter of us all along the eastern coast, from North Carolina, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Florida. All of this vast land from North Carolina down to Florida was given to African people. You don't have it anymore. Took it away. You don't own anything. The other quarter of us, so the war, slavery ends. Half of us are stuck sharecropping, still slaves, they're just renaming. A quarter of us got a lot of land along the eastern coast, from South Carolina, from North Carolina, all the way down to Florida. You lost all of that. And a quarter of us dispersed ourselves and went to different parts of the West, the middle of America, east of the Mississippi River. And what do they call it, Wall Street? What do they call Wall Street? You heard what they did to Wall Street, right? Yeah.
Oh, they destroyed.
A quarter of us dispersed and created the hundreds and thousands of Wall Street. Totally independent of white folks. And what did they do? They destroyed it. So you know they didn't have any intent. So now you see what happened to our people on the land in Africa. Every colonized people who were colonized by some white country in the last 200 or 300 years went through the same thing you and I have gone through. So there was never any intent for you to be prosperous. A lot of farmers are going out of business because of the tariffs that the United States is trying to make other countries who do business with pay that extra money. The country said, I'm not going to send you coffee beans from Brazil, pay you much more for it. I'll sell the coffee beans to China, somebody else, get a good price for it. So, what is happening now is a lot of farmers are going bankrupt because they used to sell their corn and the soybean and coffee and stuff to foreign customers. Say Brazil. He imposed the tariffs, they said, we're not going to pay that. So they shipped it away. So now you have a lot of white farmers, they're going to lose their farms because they can't sell the product. And then we had mentioned this, and I'm going to end it here. We had mentioned this before. If you were to go to every white farmer, Martin Luther King said it in one of his speeches, but they never let you hear that. He said, you let in your peasants from Europe. He called them peasants. With no skill and no education. You gave them land. You gave them mules. You gave them equipment. You taught them how to farm. You set up colleges and stuff. Because Europeans, most of what you eat in Europe was something called cabbage and potatoes. They didn't have cassava. They didn't have any of the root plants that you find in hot Caribbean, African countries. They didn't know how to grow a damn thing because it was famine in Europe. Most of the food that was bad was either some kind of cabbage or some kind of potato. That's basically what they had. So when these people came from Europe flooding in, they didn't know how to grow corn. They didn't know how to grow anything. So what do? They push you off the land. Let's take the South, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. They pushed all the indigenous people off the land and put white people. White people didn't know how to grow anything. We were always the farmers and stuff. But they had to take the land for white people. So that's what Martin Luther King said. He said, you didn't do anything for African people. But you did it for your peasants. You gave them farmland. You gave them tools, everything. Now, if you were to go to any of these white farmers in the United States and ask them, who did your grandfather buy the land from? Who did they buy the land from? They didn't, right? Because their great-great-grandfather, how did they get the land? It was given to them by the U.S. government, right? So there's no white farmer, none. And you say, how the hell Dr. Lewis know there's none? You tell me when they paid anybody for the farm that they took from. They didn't pay any indigenous people. Nothing. They rewarded you with debt. So in other words, all this farmland that you see in the South, all this farmland out west, corn and wheat and everything, who used to farm that? The indigenous people. So no white farmer can show you a deed that they brought from an indigenous person. Doesn't exist. So how the hell are you going to now say, I'm losing my farm? My great-grandfather had the farm. Yeah, your great-grandfather got off the boat as an immigrant, bringing his disease. He didn't bring a damn thing with him, and your great-grandfather was fortunate enough to be one of the whites, because they kept a lot of whites in the city to do the work, but somebody had to go to the farm, so they gave the white farmers. They didn't pay a damn, not any white farmer can show you a deed where they brought the deed from an indigenous person. Doesn't exist. And I saw that in Vanuatu. When I came to Vanuatu, my wife and my two youngest, about 50, 40 something, 1970 something, 1970, 1980. The government of Vanuatu, if those people don't know it, is an African government just like the Caribbean. It's just the Caribbean on the other side of the world. And we were there, they were fighting it. They got their independence, but it was a paper independence. So finally, the indigenous people put together an army and they drove the British, the French, and the UK out of Vanuatu. While they were being driven out, they asked, the British and the French, asked the U.S. to come and intervene. They said they wouldn't intervene because indigenous people said everybody's going to take up arms. Now, what am I driving at? As Father Lindy, the first president, prime minister of Vanuatu, we talk Vanuatu as a small island the size of New Jersey. 90 islands on the other side of the world. If you've ever been in the Caribbean, that's the Caribbean there. So you're talking about the same climate, same food, same people. It's a country called Vanuatu. So when the British and French were driven out, the British government, the French government, backed by the United States and Australia, said, you have to pay the French and the English for the farms. The British and the French were farming the land. And the British and the French, backed by the United States, tried to put pressure on Vanuatu to pay the French people for the farms. And so there was a brother there, a lawyer, said he recommended to the prime minister and the government to pay those French men and English men for their farms. In other words, France, white men and white women are in Vanuatu with farms. How did they get the farms? Huh? I didn't hear what you said. I'm hard to hear. You come to somebody's land, how do you get something? How do the white people get the land here? How did they get it? So, do you know of any indigenous people who ever signed over this land? It doesn't exist. So the young brother said to the prime minister and them, agree to pay the French for their farms, so you won't have a headache with the United States. So when the French came, the white British came, my farm is so many acres. How much? I want 5,000. Okay.
Wipe stick off and see if it reboots.
Where's your deed? Where's your deed? Where's the deed? Say it now.
Do not have one.
Why don't they have a deed?
Because they never paid for it, never did it legally.
So did the government of Vanuatu have to reimburse the white Frenchmen and Englishmen for their farms?
I would think not.
Why?
Because they didn't buy it in the first place.
They can't prove they ever purchased it. You know how they got it, right? That's the whole point that I'm making.
They take.
When I got there, a lot of young children were deaf, can't hear. And what I found out is when the French, just think of the Caribbean island, any of you were born there, relative, it's identical. They drove them off the land, and in the tropical countries, it gets cold sometime at night. So the kids were pushed out of the destroyed the villages, and the young people had to sleep at night in the ground. And it's cold, and you get ear infections, and they lost their hearing. So I was checking young kids, where they get that? Then you learn. The land was taken, they had to live in the bush, and they got infections and got death. Okay? South Africa could have done that. They didn't have to say, they should have returned the land, make some formula to give it back to the Africans, but they haven't done it yet, but they're getting it. So the point that I'm making here is, with the white farmers here, you can't find one white farmer with a little plot of land or hundreds of thousands of acres of land. You can't find, I bet you couldn't find one of them had a deed. Any deed they had, they made it up. That's how you think, well, I'm an African man, I'm a black man, I'm a nigger, whatever you want to call yourself. Whatever you're suffering, you think you had, that's what they did to everybody else. Beat you, killed you. And so now these countries are gathered together in different organizations, BRICS and stuff. And they're now tired of the United States invading them, stealing their stuff. So the Monroe Doctrine was basically the United States after 18, whatever it is, says that to the European. You can't come over and make any more colonies in the Caribbean or Central and South America. The Caribbean and Central and South America, we're the ones who want to steal from it. And some of the documents show that the United States invaded or intruded on all of those countries from Mexico, all Central and South America, 6,000 times. Okay. So what we're going to do is kind of piece together, but there's too much information and too much detail to try to give you an overview of what it is that we're dealing with. And if you were to ask me, what's the summation and what's the point of all of this? To understand who's your enemy. You got to know who your enemy is and what your enemy has done. And I'm going to end with two sayings from my experience. Chris Hedges, one of these white Americans who had similar experiences overseas, to be firsthand seeing what the United States have done to countries. And in his writings, one of his lectures, he says, in his opinion, he's dealing with the behavior of white people in the last couple of 100 years. And he said, his summation is white Americans
Let's hope it don't.
and Europeans
Let's just hope it stays
are
on.
Ice Age cave hunters with a suit and a beard. What he's telling you, you see that man? He has the suit and the shirt and the tie. But look at his behavior. That's what he's saying. When you can kill down millions of people, mass murder and steal, set up government structures to make people live terribly. And the other one I'm going to end with is what I always say, what Michael Moore said. My wife and I, and others, a few others, went down to City College in the 60s. I always forget which one it is. The City College in the Lexington Avenue down in the 60s. Hunter College. Big auditorium. 300, 400, 500 people, WBAI. But we used to go with WBAI 10, 15 years ago. And the audience is all white. Handful of black people. And Michael Moore was on the stage with Cornel West. Y'all know who Cornel West is, right? You know who Michael Moore was, right? And Michael Moore said to Cornel West, let me show you, and it's always stuck in my mind, to illustrate what I'm saying. Michael Moore said to Cornel West, he's on the stage, Cornel West is on the stage, they're together. I'm going to ask a question. Only the white people answer. And I've said it over and over. It stuck with me. Michael Moore asked, why do we white people find it necessary to mistreat black people in America? What was his answer? Anybody know what the answer was from the audience? Anybody have a guess? What was the answer?
Could you rephrase the question?
Michael Moore said to Cornel West, because it was a meeting, you know, it was a thing, but Michael Moore, they got into it back and he said, let me show you how, he said, you black people, y'all have the way y'all interact with each other, your codes. Let me show you white codes that you don't know because you're not white in this country. He asked the audience, was 99% white. He said to Cornel West, let me show you how we think. He said, only white people answer. Why do we white people find it? In fact, it's still on the video here. My son picked it up. Why do we white people Why, how many has he said the question? Why do we find it necessary as white people to mistreat black people in America? What was the answer? What do you think the answer was from the audience?
They have a fear of black people rising back up against them based on the things they've done historically against black people, number one. Number two, because black people have always been very resilient and very focused when they build their own communities and institutions and their own type of way of doing things. It always confounds them, so that's why even when they claim they want us to be not in their stuff in their area, when we go away from them and create something, they immediately come follow you and destroy it. Because we make a way out of no way, as a friend of mine used to say, and we make things happen because it's necessary and we do that. And it's always been a trademark of our people, especially those of us here who chose to be black and who chose to be African in this hemisphere right here, in this place called North America. That's at least my feeling.
Okay. You know what the answer was? Silence. He asked the question a second time. Why do we find it necessary to mistreat black people? The second response, total silence. 3 times he asked. So he said, you see, this is the behavior of white people. I wanted you to see it. So basically the answer to the question, not a single white person asked the question. He said, Michael Moore said, but they benefit from the system in this country. They benefit from the racism. They participate in it. They do everything, but no answer. So for me, it verified for me they're complicit.
Okay.
In any, you come to a country, why? Because the word get around. White people run this. White people took over this land. These white Europeans who come here find out very quickly how the United States got to be United States. Then they know, where's all the indigenous? Why blacks always huddle here? They all. So what he's saying in essence, for me, they know what they're doing. They're taking advantage of every opportunity because this is the United States of America. And in the United States of America, you can come to this country and because of the stratification of race and mistrust of certain types of people, you can zoom in. And I worked in one of the emergency room with 2 Russian white, because I'm an ophthalmologist, but I trained in general surgery, emergency medicine 15 years, so I know the medicine. We're in the emergency room. She said, look in Patterson, New Jersey. She said, look at this. We just got here. 2 white Russian women. We said, we just got here in Jersey. And we got a home here and here and here. He said, why? The other one said, you know why. They know why. And I'm not blaming them, but I know from me and what I understand the United States of America. They come here. Even the Indians, everybody come here to live well. Off of who? Look at this vast country. Damn it, you got so much land and so much food and everything, you didn't have to pay a damn thing for it. All you have to do is be non-white, non-black, and you're going to get all the advantages of these people who built the damn country.
Politics of America.
So, you take it for whatever you want to take it for. Now, Ray will tell you, we go to question and answers. Anything anybody wants to say, add, put your piece of history in it, this is the time you do it. I only gave you my limited presentation. You have all of us have the experience. And each of us need to tell us what you have experienced that none of us, we learn from each other.
Okay, sorry about the internet problems with Sleaze Mobile, but I didn't want to cut the device off, so far so good. Sorry for the problems, but you definitely will be able to go back over the program once it's downloaded. Any questions from the Zoom audience first? Questions from the Zoom? Go ahead and ask Doc.
Yes, sir. This is Melvin Walters. You can change.
Go ahead, Mel. Ask your question there, sir.
Thank you. We've been doing this for years. It's wonderful to get the information. My question is, when do we begin to strategize, seriously strategize, come together, and first and foremost, look out for ourselves, as we call African Americans, along with fighting.
The full question is, how do we
When do we begin to what?
get together, strategize and get together to do what?
Did you hear the question? What did he say?
Okay, answer your question again, Walter.
Strategize for what?
To come together,
Or how do we,
as black people.
how do we come together as black folks?
Answer your question again, Walt. Answer your question again, how do we?
I'm trying to, did we lose him? We had 12 in a room. I think he kind of chimed off, something happened. He might come back in.
Okay, I think, anybody heard what he said? How do we strategize?
Johnson did it.
Yeah, generally the question was, how do we strategize to be able to combat against, some of these things that we're facing? What are some of the solutions, the strategies realistically around, unifying and actually being a viable force within the world?
Okay, good, Doc.
Well, the way I would answer it is, we globally, our population, they say, is multiplying. So one of the most important things that a group of people could have to their advantage for the next generation is people. What is he talking about? I'm talking about the long range. If it's true, let's take the birth rate. If it's true in South Korea, in Japan, most of Europe, and many countries, they have negative birth rate. What does that mean, a negative birth rate? It means then that you as a group of people, if your birth rate is positive, you will be putting more people on earth. So your people and your culture, you have a chance of it being viable in the future. But let's say you're one of these countries where you're losing population. Theoretically, maybe in 100 years, there may be so few of you that you can't even count. So if you're a European, a white person, and if these numbers are accurate, that they're only 2-3% of the world's population, and they're in a negative birth rate, 100 years from now, you almost ain't gonna find any white people. So the worst thing that can happen to a group of people is to be extinct. Now, if you're looking at how do you look at what it is you asked me? Now, if you want, let's take Burkina Faso. Now that they had a coup, they got rid of the French, they got rid of the U.S., they got rid of the European Union, they got rid of NATO and everything. Got rid of them. Went to countries that will assist them to protect them from your enemies, the Russians, the Chinese, this one, they grouped together. Now that they're able to get rid of the people who caused the problem for Burkina Faso and hook up with other people who will help protect you so you can build on that area of the earth you call a country to provide your people with quality food and quality living. We're living in this country you call the United States. Why is it that we, quote unquote, live in the state that we live in? Poverty, mistreatment, all kinds. Because you're living in a structure that you don't control. Someone asked a question last week we were talking about, and it was true about culture. In Vanuatu, in many of the African cultures, when you control your cultures, you can run the cultures the way you want. So I don't have any solution. If I was controlling the United States of America, I would restructure it totally different. But you don't control it. So I don't have any quick answers to your question. And that's why the United States and Europeans are fighting so hard globally, because they got rich in the last 200 or 300 years, killing millions of people and structuring governments that benefit them. When you can control your areas, you will live better. Anytime one group is living under the thumb of another group that's mistreating you, you gotta struggle. So the best thing I can tell people is, where you are, do the best you can to take care of your family. Burkina Faso. No, let me take an example. Nigeria, one of the countries in the Sahel nation. They cut France off from the uranium. France no longer has uranium. The uranium that France was stealing from Nigeria electrified France, electrified Germany, electrified Britain. Now that they no longer have that free uranium, the French are de-industrializing. They can't heat the homes. Now Africans, with their uranium, they're going to get electricity. Their lifestyle is going to increase. We are living human beings. We're living animals. The quality of our lives depends upon the structure that we live in. If you're living in the structure today, under a group of people, take the United States of America, stolen land and stolen people, and you expect to mistreat it? I think we as African people are doing very well compared to the situation. Our birth rate is still at least positive in the United States. They weren't able to, for whatever the reason, to exterminate us here. That's a great achievement. When you are conquered by somebody who's genocidal, who proved they killed by the tens of millions. What I say is we're doing good, given the pressure and what we under, for us to still be here, viable with families.
Sure.
Any questions from the floor? Anybody from the floor want to ask a question for the doctor?
Statements. They say what you have to say.
No stupid questions.
I'm gonna just.
Okay, we got one.
Yeah, I appreciate the brother's entire discourse in terms of weaving all the elements of history together, because it's, like you said, it's a whole volume of information, and it's a whole lot of moving parts that are going on right now. I just want to say that in the context of what we're going through in this era of the Trumpism and this fascist authoritarian regime, which is, rising every time, I think probably the most strategic thing, even if it's unconscious with a lot of our people, is letting it go on and understanding that this ain't necessarily our fight until they bring it to us. This is white folks' business. Let them fight it out among themselves, and we do the best that we can, as he says, to protect our families, to keep our stuff intact, and to quietly fortify ourselves, because we know they're coming for us, because when they come for these other people who we hear, who were misaligned in terms of thinking they're going to get something from these folks, now they see even if they're U.S. citizens and stuff, they're being pushed out and shipped out of the country and stuff, and to this thing. Now, they're just focusing on them right now, but we the main objective that they want to come for. But until it comes directly for us, our best strategy is to lay out of it and to just observe and be vigilant, but let white folks fight out the white folks stuff and everything, because that's what's happening with them right now. And I honestly believe because there's a level of control and an interest struggle with them, and whenever so that's why they're talking about this, we're the black people, because we've always been at the forefront in this country of resisting and of putting stuff in check and being a moral conscience as well as the physical conscience in terms of us joining their armed forces and stuff and tipping the scales of victory in their favor because we joined the fight. So right now, while it's an interest struggle between them and the whole concept of white supremacy and white nationalism is going on, let them deal with it. We just observe and see what's going on. And they're pissed about that. That's why when this boy got killed, this Charlie Kirk person and everything. Well, why aren't they, mourning him and everything? Why should we? Now, we all know that, and all of us who got common sense, why we not and why we don't care. We don't wish no bad on nobody, but we ain't gonna praise this fool because we know what he was saying. He's the one who talked to stuff where you got a Dylan Roof, that boy who went in that church and shot up all the black people in South Carolina and everything. He's the one who espoused things like that. So basically, what happened with him is just a case like my man, Brother Malcolm said, case of the chickens coming on the roost. We ain't trying to, jump on it and, glorify, because, we are people who value life. We're people who value creation and living. So that's what we're about in terms of trying to better ourselves, better our nation, and better our family. We are the people in this country right here who chose to be black or who chose to be African-centered in terms of our stuff. This is why they come for us, because we did that and we have thrived and we have survived against insurmountable odds and have been able to create and be able to do things. The thing that they get worried about is if we do go off and everything, we're going to go off so badly and so well, we're going to surpass them. So they either attack like they did in Bloomington, Delaware, like they did in Tulsa, Oklahoma, like they did in all those more than 50 black boom towns that were across this country in the 20s, and they would with concentrated efforts to destroy them. So the thing that we need to do in the context of this right now is just learn better how to defend ourselves. And folks have already been doing it. We've seen flashes of it right now. Because we got the, the Alabama boat ride, when it came and folks came out of this brother swimming like Aquaman across the water to get into the fray and everything, and folding chairs and stuff. The people are ready to resist, and the people see what's happening. But be strategic about it. Be quiet about it. And let them deal with themselves. And then when it's time, when they come to ready for us, we'll be ready, but we don't have to deal or insert ourselves in white folks' business. Let them get it together on their own, because a lot of times they've been lazy and they look for us to come in the midst of it. No, you created this mess, you handle it if you really try to deal with it. And that's all I have to say on that. And I thank you for giving me time to speak.
Two things. I say amen to that. That's number one. And like he said, we got to resist and stuff. Now, if we blow it up to globally, the center of power for the so-called white Chinese race is big China. No matter how many Chinese are scattered, the survival of the Chinese race, the white Chinese, is China. No matter where we are globally, we all over. The survival of the African race is Africa.
That's right.
Now, everything else, the battle, but that's the core. The survival of so-called white Europeans is that area you call Europe, okay? That area you call India, you call China, you call Africa. If it's true, they all have positive birth rates. And they all are taking over the lead in global economy. The Europeans, the ones who are here and all over, their survival as a so-called part of the human race, the core survival is Europe. Now, if the core survival is Europe, with their negative birth rate,
exactly.
The long-range view, my grandchildren, I want my grandchildren, I want my grandchildren to be able to go to Africa and be secure.
Exactly.
African people are not going to be secure under anybody else but an African. You can forget the European. And I checked a patient that was the last patient. He has, I said, your name, it comes from, it's India, or which, yeah, it's India. Just like any one of us. So I told him, look up Adivasi. Adivasi is just a term that the Indian government uses to acknowledge that these people are the oldest known people to inhabit that area you call India, right? And who are they?
The Dalits, the Dravidians.
They are Indian. 90% of India is you. Now that 5 or 10% may be the white or light-skinned humans who run it. The point that I see it this way. If I follow the same trend like most human beings, I will be dead one day. But the thing is that you have your children, your race to survive. Africa, the way Africa, it's the second largest continent in the world. It's got 60% of the arable land, and the way they're putting the trees down and the way the global is turning, they're going to have 70 or 80%. So as the Africans, the most important survival of species is the continent. So when you look at Africa, you say, are the Africans getting it together? If the Africans are getting it together, we as a race. And I say to people, why? I said, look, the white man ain't going to give you a damn thing. But when we get powerful enough, and it's coming, and they say, Burkina Faso saying, and the other one, we want all of the artifacts you stole from us. And we want all of the billions of dollars you stole. Now, if you don't give me, no. You mistreating African people in the United States. If you keep treating, you ain't getting no damn gold, you get nothing. Then they're going to give you, even the French now say, I'll give you back whatever we stole if you just give me some uranium. It's too late. So what I'm saying is I'm agreeing with you and the brother. We survived this. We're survivors. Whatever we've been doing, let's keep doing it. Hold on to your families. If you weren't who you are, we should have been wiped out a long time ago. Why they didn't exterminate us? Because we strong biologically. We can have babies up to the 40s or 50s, white people. So what I'm saying is, short of a mass extermination of us here, which ain't going to kill us all down, because who the hell going to run the country? Who's going to make the music? Who's going to do it? You made all the invention. The white people who know, understand you cannot get, that's why they had to break, that's why they had to take the land from you in the Carolinas. That's why they had to destroy it, because the white man cannot put together a damn thing unless you have African people. It shows you that. You have the genius, all of that. They know they're not fools. They know they got no country. So we're going to continue to survive. We're still making more babies. We still got a positive birth rate. There's 1.5 billion. They say by the year 2050, 1/3 of all human beings will be in Africa. Now, if you take 1/3 of all human beings in Africa, and then add all the Africans in India and everything, we already now probably 50 or 60% of the world's population. In 10 or 15 years, you and all of us who's going to still be alive, going to say, God damn, 90% of the world is us and we are moving. That's for your grandchildren and stuff. We have fought a good battle here with these white people. But the real survival is when Africa gets stronger, they're going to pick up the phone because they're doing it now. They're telling them, you're going to give back this artifact. You're going to give back every damn thing. If you mistreat an African, we're going to cut your ass off. Don't worry about these white people. It's over. They don't make babies. They know it. The Japanese are not making it, they say. The South Korean. Look at you. So to close with, look. I can't say it here. You know what Richard Pryor said about what we do. Right? Can I say it?
Okay. Go ahead.
Like black people are wicked.
That's right.
Excuse me. You got to have people. That's the biggest thing. Look, how long do you think it's going to take? Okay, let me say this. We said it before. Big China was a flourishing country, okay? Then the English and the French, they went in with all the drugs and stuff, and they screwed it up. Then they had a civil war. You know, they've been fighting. But 1949, Soviet Union helped Mao Zedong defeat Chiang Kai-shek backed by the United States, right?
Right.
China was, the condition China was with industries and roads and stuff was the same way you can go into many African countries now and look at the relative undevelopment. Right. The Soviet Union helped China from 1949 to 1970 to put back the basic structure, railroads and everything. 1970, the white people moved the technology into China for money, and China used it. It doesn't, you know how? Africans now are making automobiles. They're making airplanes. It's not going to take if any of us live another 15 years, Africa is going to be more industrialized than China. It's 4 times larger, and we're already there. So I have no choice. So I can see, I want my grandchildren and many to be in a position to grow with that continent, because there's not a goddamn thing left here. At the rate these countries are leaving, they're deindustrializing. Trump and all, you know. Oh man, you gotta see. You gotta hold on as much as you can. What do we always say? Take care of your family first, your immediate family. Then the second stage is you take care, you participate in your community here. And the third thing is you help Africa. The white people, they know what's going on. Any white person who's traveled and understand population, understand white people only got here in power the last 100 and 150 years. And why do you think they kill down everybody? Because they don't make babies. They don't make culture. They don't produce a damn thing. So I have all the faith in y'all. We're still here. We have a positive population. We got a big continent. We're going to be okay. But it's the fight is for your grandchildren.
Okay, you want to say something, my brother?
Yeah.
You gotta talk loud. I'm hard to hear. Come on, you gotta talk loud. You can't whisper.
Since I've been growing up, like...
Something's wrong with who?
Since I've been growing up, the people that I've been around, that have been young,
Doc,
my age...
You gotta talk a little louder, brother.
And older, they've been speaking about white people and how they really want to keep things for themselves, right? And like, they said just let them destroy themselves. Just let them have their own resources and materials or whatever that they have for themselves, and we just speak amongst us, like, and just educate ourselves to just...
See, you gotta look at a bigger picture. If the numbers are correct, there are 350 million people, they say, in the United States. Half of them are non-white.
Hold up, Zoom.
Of that half are non-white, if any of us live long enough, another 10 or 15 years, 50% of the population is white, 50% is non-white. If things continue, the white people are going to be a quarter. And then they're going to be the rest. They can't hurt Africa anymore because Africa will be building. They're getting the jet planes and everything. You got to be able to protect yourself. So what happens here in the United States has nothing to do with what is happening globally and those of us who, let's look at the world in 5, 10, 50 years. They don't want to, the United States is deindustrializing. They don't make anything. None of the world has to come to trade with them anymore. It's a bigger picture.
Nothing here.
It's nothing here. It's a bigger picture.
Here. No factories here, no nothing.
United States is this thing with the thing. They don't tell the people it was white, Anglo-Saxon men, presidents, Congress people, the president. They moved all of the industry out.
NAFTA and GATT and both parties voted on it. So when you're running around talking about Donald Trump, it's not only Donald Trump. The Democratic Party is not going to save us. So when you look at what's happening with the Don, you got to remember, don't think for 1 minute that the Democratic Party is going to save us, because they are not. You got the Democratic Party, you got the Republican Party, and you got the Zionist Party, which controls the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. So Garvey said, race first. Elijah Muhammad said, look out for yourself first. So don't think, just because this new drug is hitting America called the Dawn, don't think that the Democrats are going to be our savior, because it's the Democrats that allowed all the folks to roll in and use your tax dollars to fund these other people. We got a question on the Zoom. Go ahead, my brother.
Yes, sorry.
Go ahead.
Hello, how's it going? I just wanted to mention, so my question is, basically oligarchs are thriving to make use of the global apartheid and caste systems psychologically and financially. So what I would ask is, what would you say is a great way for us to build in this system while the black man is trying to strategize against us with concepts such as this? Like, what would you say is a great way for us to unify and build towards this? Because I agree with what you're saying about Africa, being that a lot of this stuff was done because Africa has the most resources globally, so they want to make sure they make use of it and control it and make the black man feel less of what they are. All right, thank you.
Again, the power center for African-based people is the continent itself. When as Africa, it's like the United States in the last 40 or 50 years. All of these black people here, Chinese and stuff, but we don't have to worry because we have the strongest white country, America. America's white run. It can beat up on everybody. So we white people don't have to worry about all of the Chinese, Indians, and Africans. They can't do anything to us because we have America to beat them down. Now this thing is changing. 10, 15, 20 years, is Africans bring the resources under their control? Is African build their military power, and they're doing it already? Why is that Europe is deindustrializing? Because the Africans are not letting them take the oil, the uranium, they're not taking the food and anything. That's one of the reasons Africa is building fast and Europeans going down. Why is America going down so much? Because America built off of what it steals primarily out of Africa. So you take care of yourself while you're here. But your future for African people globally is the continent. When Africa gets strong enough, they'll be able to tell the Chinese, anybody, you mistreating Africans, we cut you off from there. You mistreating Africans, we're going to move an army into you.
Okay.
You know, this is white run. This thing is disintegrating. If I was a white man, Soros and what all these other people are, they know it's over for white people. White human beings control the global economy only in the last 200 years. And it's over. Africans ran the world most of the time. Why is 90% of India, Pakistan, they're all African? If you count up all the people
until they get over here, Doctor.
I don't care about over here. I'm talking about globally right now. The largest group of human beings on earth that anybody can classify as African. India has 1.4 billion. 85% of them are you. Your ancestors got the same hair, everything. There's no different. They call it Adivasi. India is an African-based country. The fact that the white Indians run it. Half of Pakistan is. You know, come on, we're here. You can't look at the short range and know this guy. The hell with the short range. The reason you is, like the brother said, how do you think we stayed here so long under all of it, still intact? Don't worry about having a car, automobile, something like that. But Africa, 1.5 billion. And they're already exerting their pressure. They're telling the European, if you don't send this back and you stop mistreating this one and this one, you ain't getting nothing. That's power. Don't worry about it. But you got to look long range. Everybody look at money.
Question.
Yes.
You said Saudi Arabia and America are against one another? Did you say that?
What I'm reporting is something you have to double and triple, quadruple check. It is circulating that seven countries in Southwest Asia called Arab, Saudi Arabia, and I can list them. They're saying, now you check it out, they're saying it's running here. Verify it. 7 Persian Gulf countries cancel all contracts with the United States.
Okay.
And then they read it here. Let's assume maybe it's disinformation. But if it is accurate, and they do deny the United States of America access to the oil, your ass is in trouble. Big trouble. If this is true.
You better buy some wood and put it in the basement.
If this is true, you got big, and they tell you the reason. Look, they tell you wait now. Israel bombed, which Qatar? Was it Qatar? Whatever it is.
Yeah, it was Qatar.
Qatar paid the United States billions and billions of dollars to protect it from Israel. They bombed it anyhow. The United States knew what it was doing because they monitored it. So Saudi Arabia must be scared as hell because they're saying that Saudi Arabia has now made a military pact with Pakistan. And Pakistan said, anybody who attacks Saudi Arabia, I'm coming in to help Saudi Arabia, and I got atomic bombs just like the United States. So this thing about U.S. and Israel always threatening you, Pakistan said to Iran, Pakistan said to Saudi Arabia, so that they said, don't worry, I got you back. So things are changing so fast. So I'm asking the question, is the fact that Saudi Arabia finally is coming to its senses, that you can't trust the West. So they went to Pakistan and they officially announced, Pakistan say, anybody who attack Saudi Arabia, I'm coming in. And we got atomic bombs, so the United States and Israel got to back up. You take Burkina Faso. Why is Burkina Faso is still strong and getting stronger? What 4 countries are assisting it and protecting it to develop? Soviet, Russia, China, North Korea, India. Those 4 countries are in there with military, they're in there with development.
And the BRICS, the economic.
Yeah, well, they're part of the BRICS, but I'm just in the 4 countries. Right. Russia and China is now saying to the world, we're not going to let United States run around the world knocking off these countries. They want to destroy Venezuela, steal Venezuela. So the Chinese said, hell no, I put $70 billion in. And you going to come and destroy it? No, you ain't doing it anymore. So that's why Burkina Faso in the Sahel nations are strong. Because you have Russia, China, North Korea, and now India. Burkina Faso. So you stick together. It's over for the United States and white Europeans in terms of global control. It's over. If you just look and understand those parameters. Finish. And if it's true that these 7 Arab countries are now cutting off oil completely, I didn't say it was true, I picked it up. They're running it. But if it is true, it's telling us now they don't trust the United States, and that you don't have to worry about the nuclear threat because Pakistan said, I'll get whoever needs it. And I'm not getting into the Middle East with all this other stuff. But if they had a 6-day or 12-day war in Iran, according to what they're saying, 1/3 of Israel was destroyed in 12 days using some of the old stuff. If they attack Iran again, and Iran uses the thousands, there will be no physical place you call Israel. I am not working against anybody.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, give Dr. Lewis a great big hand. This will be part 2. He's gonna do part 3. What he's saying is that you better look out for yourself. If you ain't going back to the motherland, you still got to deal with the problems. But if you're here, you better look what's going on. It doesn't make a difference who's running the country. The country does what it does, whoever's in office.
Right.
That means nothing.
Let me make this an add to what. I'm not advocating against or for anyone. We're talking together as African-based people with our thoughts and our minds. And all of what the suggestion we make is all viable. We have to take from everything everybody said here and put it into it. Look, if you survive this worst, one of the worst holocausts, we're still here, still making babies, still prospering.
No.
What would happen in this country? Where would the music be? Where would the sports be? Where would most of the inventions be? The best thing that happened to Europeans in the last 200 years was to be able to tap into Africa in all of its aspects. Now that aspect of Africa that built the Western world, it's all going to now stay right in Africa to rebuild Africa globally like it built everybody else. So you're all right. You're surviving this.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, once again, give Dr. Lewis a great big hand.
Thank you, thank you.
Zoom audience, very sorry about the internet connection, but tomorrow the lecture will be on. All of our lectures is on BK History Club on YouTube. You could go through it. I'll make sure next time that they didn't just started messing up. You know how our internet connections is because we have nothing down here. But give Doc a great big hand. Get your plan together.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
No matter what, good, bad, or indifferent, the Democratic Party ain't gonna save us. The Republican Party ain't gonna save us.
Or the Republican Party will not save us either.
That's what I said. And
okay.
That's what I said. Okay. So, if you think...
Nor the Africans in Africa or those who came over here who are benefiting off of what we done.
They might not save us neither because we got to redo their brains because when they get over here, something else happens to them. So, ladies and gentlemen...
We've been doing that for a long time. We got to redo our brains.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to give yourself a great big hand. I'm going to cut the camera off. You can conversate, good, bad, or indifferent. Good lecture, so we got to clean it up and get it done.